What's going on?
Hello. Hi.
It's a high energy show today, folks.
Very high. So, you know how man, it's been what, 6 weeks? 6 weeks ago, I broke some ribs and it's been feeling really great. I've been doing stuff. I even went to the gym. I was sitting in my car and I feel this twinge in my back. I think I broke one of the healing ribs. Ah, so I need to simmer down again. I was getting a little too excited, thinking, I'm good, I'm healed. Hey, what did they do anyway? But anyway, I sit down and so now at certain movements I'll reach, I'll feel it. So
It's a miracle. Wait, no,
yeah,
it's not.
this is a blessing and a curse. Having a high pain tolerance, sometimes I think I'm doing better than I think I am. So I don't feel pain. It hurt to sneeze, but didn't hurt too much to breathe. Maybe a big inhale kind of bothered it some. I mean, this is like with two really bad broken
Yeah.
ribs and the one or two cracked ones, but like it didn't slow me down too much. So I'm like, all right, take a deep breath. Um, but if you look around at who your high pain tolerant people are, you can look at some of the sports they do. People that run, I would say, have a higher pain tolerance because a lot of it's just kind of like this is uncomfortable, it kind of hurts, but you just keep going, you keep pushing until you get that runner's high. Um, but you can kind of spot them. You know, I bet a lot of people run marathons and stuff. You're just kind of getting in that flow. You learn to kind of zone, and the pain kind of fades away. Those are pretty tough people. So at least I guess those that probably compete.
Yeah.
If you're running like 8-minute miles, you're not one of those people.
Yeah. Not everybody's David Goggins.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying you have to be an Olympian, but those that can just cruise and
Yeah.
cruise and cruise, because a lot of it's just embracing the suck. Like in the Marine Corps, in the military, we had to
Yeah.
run like that. We did 2 miles. You guys do a 3 mile run?
Yeah. Yeah. We did 3
We did
miles.
3 miles. Yeah, and a lot of it's just like you're not getting a runner's high by then. You just
Yeah.
embrace it and go as fast as you can, and you just push through that.
Yeah. Well, and they would mess with us. They would like run us like we're going back to the shop and then like veer off and do that like 3 or 4 times. You're like,
Keep
oh, I'm
going.
going home. Wait, no, I'm not.
No, no.
I'm going the opposite direction. What's going on?
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Slave on.
Yeah, no, they try to break you mentally and it's awesome.
Yeah, and you'll see some hearts and minds get kind of crushed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, souls leaving bodies all the time.
The Marines do cadence different than the Army does. The Army sings more
Yeah.
when we run and twist and shout, whatever. And the armies are Marines are more monotone.
Yep.
They're it's just different. And I noticed it when I was at Fort Lee. I was in training for EOD bomb squad, and there was Marines there, and it was interesting. And the Army had out for several years this the wimpy exercises, more into stretching, so you get less injuries. I mean, I guess it has a positive to it, but these people get paid millions of dollars
Oh,
to come up with these like strange exercises. And one of them is called the bend and reach.
oh, lovely.
And so we're like bending over, and the Marines would come running by with logs and chains. And I was like, this is ridiculous
Oh yeah.
that I'm bent over as the Marines go by, carrying logs and doing manly
Yeah.
stuff. And we're like, the bend and reach. And you're bend over, up, bend over, up, bend over.
That's why we make fun of everybody. We have to run with logs.
With logs and shades. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that was yeah, Fort Lee. Yeah, intro to bomb squad. Yeah, it's kind of
Fun
a
stuff.
funny thing. I always remembered that, and I was like, man, if I was younger, I totally would have been a Marine. It's just I joined the military at 34. I turned
Yeah.
35, the cutoff. I was already cut off from the younger ranks, the other, Navy, Army. Um, but here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we had a guy in boot camp that was 34, but he was also like prior Spanish military.
Oh yeah,
So he was already jacked and like he was crazy, crazy
yeah,
dude.
yeah. There's some crazy. Yeah, we had some guys from the Rock Army, and Green guy like the Rock Army. Like, oh man. Anyway, he had several pounds he had to sweat off. He was a little chunky when he came in, but he got skinny. Oh man. Uh there is so much going on, guys.
Yeah.
I feel bad because some of it's kind of repetitive because you're dealing with DOGE and FEMA and tariffs and Second Amendment and all this stuff, but let's just hustle through it. Like I say, you're allowed to believe what you want. There is a bigger picture to all this. Like, you might be rooting because you think, hey, this needs to be done. But there are other reasons this stuff's happening. So DOGE is the Department of Digital Services. It was renamed for 18 months for them to go in and wreak havoc or positivity, whatever you want. This stuff should have been done a long time ago,
Oh yeah.
folks. So here we go. So the first thing I want to point out is people go like, how come he's got these young kids? They're not accountants. What are they doing? Why are they using computer programmers? Why are they using computer programmers and not accountants to do what they're doing?
I'm guessing because all of it has to do with computer paper trails.
A programmer, yeah, they can create their scenarios, run it through the
Yep.
system, and look for anything that's out of the ordinary. Millions of files. They say, hey, these are our parameters. Anything over this much, or anything that's anything that's like a perfect number. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Um, anything that doesn't have a social security number, anything that doesn't have this or that, um, or if you see a pattern, like if a certain number keeps popping up over and over again, let's look at that.
Yep.
Let's Anyway, that's a simple way of talking about programming. I'm sure it's a little different, but they can look at data sets.
Yeah.
They can look at what's going overseas, what country's getting what. And they can break it down into data sets and look at it from a total different perspective than just an audit and say, hey, the money that came in and the money went out balanced, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
if all the records are digital, you want a digital Batman. So it makes sense. Like,
Yeah. He's also going through and I'm assuming, I don't know if they're updating the tech as they go. If they're updating, they're like, hey, everyone out for a week or two. We update the tech and okay, go back to work. This is how you're going to use
yeah.
the new software, the new program. So we've been calling it an audit, but it's a different kind of audit than what you think. Um, yeah, large data sets. So one of the data sets that they found, right? Let's go. Hey, let's break this up by age. The Right. The Social Security Department is paying 6 million people over the age of 112. What are the odds?
Oh,
I'm like,
dude.
when's the last time you met someone over 100?
Yeah. No, my great grandma didn't even make it that long.
Yeah.
You
When's the
know what I
last
mean?
time
Like
you someone over
112, like,
and 6 million of them? I'm like, you might have one in your town, you know?
yeah. There's like I think 5 or 6 mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
how do you have 6 million people over 112
Yeah.
getting Social Security? So
I'm like, are these the same 6 million that voted?
yeah, probably. I bet you they're all they're all voting
They're
for.
like, hey, indirectly, my corporation lives on and it votes. Yeah.
Yeah, mummies for Kamala.
Mummies for Kamala. Who's your mummy? Let's be a good mummy. Yeah, but you have to like be like, okay, you know, the Department of Digital Services, known as DOGE right now, is out there doing a tech audit and they're going to update their audit. In the meantime, while they're doing their tech audit, they're finding strange discrepancies that are going to ruffle a lot of feathers. But these discrepancies validate the reason for the digital upgrade
Yeah.
that we're going to see. And what is right now we see problem, problem, problem. 10 years of problems, 20 years of problems, 50 years of problems, whatever it is. They're seeing these numbers. What is the solution? Think, folks, problem solution. Before they even started this, they had a solution. What is it? What's the solution? Crypto,
Yeah,
blockchain,
probably.
ledger. Like, I'm not a genius. I mean, I deal with very just kind of like simplified concepts here, but I was like, the blockchain is the solution. And they're going
Yeah.
to ruffle a lot of feathers, run through there. And right there, I mean, half the country's all for it. This is complex because at the same time, they're dismantling the previous, I don't want to say administration, they're dismantling the globalist power. There's 3 city states in the world that are kind of untouchable: DC, London, and the Vatican. These are where like countries' assets are held, whatever. The war machine and the money printing is what we hold. And by dismantling the money flow, giving millions to every country and funding all these programs and all the sticky fingers in the middle, these processing fees of 40, 50, 60% processing fee. That's crazy. Could you imagine me like, oh yeah, you
Yeah.
need $1 million? Here's 400,000.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're also going to
Processing
be
fee.
taxed on that. No big deal.
Yeah, and you're taxed on it. Like it just it's crazy. And so where's this money going? Who's been handling it?
Yeah.
You know, even the Clintonian family
Oh,
is
yeah.
a little bit frustrated that they're like, hey, someone got 85 mil and somehow that went to this foundation. Everything was beautiful, but somehow, you know, you got a nice wedding and a house
Oh,
out of it.
yeah.
Um, so you see sticky fingers everywhere you go. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah. Or at least, really nice, make you feel good titles.
Yeah, I've seen enough money speculation to build that Golden Brick Road. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. Yeah.
we're off to see the wizard. That Golden Brick Road. I've seen enough money to pave that road
Yeah.
this past couple weeks, but it's just something to think about. Now, I get it that this need this needed to be done a long time ago. It's happening now. I get the other side's a little concerned and frustrated because we don't know the end result until it happens.
Yeah.
I don't know Elon's true intention until it happens. I don't know Donald Trump's true intention until it happens. So in one aspect, they're doing a good thing. In another aspect, I get that will they leave us in a better situation? And I think the other side, that's what they panic about. They're like,
Yeah.
all these guys are dirty. Now, even if they are dirty and they're going to line their pockets, it might be more legitimate through contracts, more on the. I mean, you can't shine a light on all this stuff
Yeah.
and then go in and pillage the way it has been going on. They're going to have to pillage through the good old boy system and contracts and stuff, which happens everywhere. We've
Yeah.
all, the good old boys holding hands and doing that stuff. And you're like, well, I guess if it's a contract, but doesn't mean it's right. It's just, we don't exactly know the intentions here.
Yeah.
Uh, is it being construed this way to show the collapse? I mean, before the show we were talking, like how many jobs are going to be, this is going to sting. How many jobs are going to be affected by this?
Yeah.
You're cutting a lot of programs in the US and outside the US and a lot of BS and a lot of surplus money being sprinkled around. And, that wealthy person needed their house built and,
Yeah.
there's job. I mean, you know, it's going to potentially, I mean, I don't know when they're going to hit a trillion, but to potentially there's $1 trillion that have been just, whoops, I spilt my milk,
Yeah.
that needs to get cleaned up. And that's going to, the whole people that get to clean up that milk, that gravy train is coming to an end. I mean, I saw video people in South Africa, uh, trying to go to get some service.
Yeah.
She looked promiscuous. I don't know what it was about, but they're like, "Oh, they're shut down." Yeah, this
Yeah.
department's not sending money anymore. Sorry. And she's like, I was just trying to, and I was like, interesting, but um,
Well,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, well, why are we funding things like this in other countries? Like I feel like a lot of the people that are whining about losing their jobs maybe need to lose their jobs. What are they doing that produces something that's a total good for society?
well, I think when I mean, this is getting a little into the wild side, but when we went into World War II, one of the agreements, we didn't want to go in there and, Pearl Harbor and all this stuff, but one of the main things that were like, fine, it's worth the cost was getting the reserve currency. That's what got us into World War II. Now, with this wonderful privilege of having the reserve currency and printing, and all countries on the western side have to settle with us. You don't see it on your end, but they all kind of settle with us. We are responsible for funding the world,
Yeah.
the way our system is set up, whether you like it or not. And so that's kind of being dismantled right now,
Yeah.
because the interest, they don't want you to pay it off. They just want you to pay the interest on it. So we are responsible for paying that interest. And so they're the more money they can pump, the more it enslaves us as a people.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, that is the system that's been there. It's being dismantled by not sending money there. Those countries are now don't have money to send back, help out,
Yeah.
spend, be abused, whatever it is. All that's going to dry up, and it, and it's going to be harder and harder for us to pay our interest on that. I don't think tariffs can solve it all
Yeah.
at the way it's gone way up, but they can look at it and say, hey, these are fraudulent expenses. You better take that off what we owe.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that as a possibility.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You got people frustrated about taxes. I don't know if this is an entry point for UBI as well, because they're like, what Elon said something about, hey, the Americans or the United States deserves a payday.
Yeah.
I hate to use the word American because we're the United States and America's a continent, and I try hard to stay with that. The, it's anyway, it's interesting, but yeah, this could be the intro of UBI in a natural, fluid way. Look at all this abuse. We'll get everything on
Yeah.
the
Well,
ledger crypto. Bring in UBI, which is basically in might begin as the return of
yeah.
your tax dollars, and you get a little something every year, month, or whatever. As we'll see, we'll see.
Maybe. I don't know. I
People are open to getting paid right now, though. They're like, they've
that's
wasted my money. I want it back.
that's true. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of like, you know what? So my thing is just stop taking from me from now on. Like, don't make me pay into things that I'm not okay with. Don't sit there and handcuff me with a tax that I have to pay or go to jail. That's dumb. Um, do I want a payday necessarily? Maybe. But I'd rather get paid from all these companies that are stealing my data and harvesting my data and selling that. I should get a cut of that because that's my data. That's
Yeah.
my personal property.
Have you read the fine print when you sign up for an app, though?
Yeah,
You have
yeah, no,
signed you have signed away your rights to be spied on. Oh, I
that's
want TikTok. I want Facebook. Those are contracts, agreements you have made with them to give up your rights.
yeah, yeah, but that shouldn't be a thing. Like, we should get some sort of kickback from that because I mean, like
Maybe that would
they're
be
making a buck off us for sure.
that might be the nice thing to do, but who's nice these days?
That's true, but
They're collecting your data, they're collecting everything, and you have given them permission.
yeah,
And some you might be upset about it, but you have given them your permission
yeah, that's fair.
to do that. And who reads the fine print? None of us do.
That's fair.
When's the last time you read it? You're like, whatever, swipe, click the box. I just need that app. I just need this service. I just, whatever. We have signed away our rights to those things. And as long as they don't shove it in your face, you're kind of okay with it,
Yeah, maybe,
you know? Because, like,
maybe.
I haven't seen, my face on social media is getting spread, or maybe they're smart enough to be like, everyone can see it, but you. The
Yeah, well,
all the pictures we have access to of you, like I don't see it coming back to bite me.
yeah.
You know, uh, they're more into collecting your data, patterns, habits right now. Um, but but anyway, you have signed your rights away, I guess is the basic point. You didn't read the fine print.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
don't know. I don't think those things should exist in the fine print. There shouldn't be a fine print. They should tell you outright what your data is being used for and what they're how much they're selling it for. Um,
They might not even know when they started it. How could they tell you if they didn't know? They're like, "Hey, we're collecting
ah,
data." Then along
yeah,
comes, 2 years later, guys like, "Hey,
they definitely
I'd
knew.
like that data.
They definitely knew.
Man, your data looks fine."
My data does look fine, especially from the back.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, I mean like I don't really see a need for a payday. Just stop raping my wallet from here on out and we're good.
Mm,
That's where I'm at.
can't use that word.
Sorry. Graping, my bad.
Yeah, you're about to
Sorry, TikTok. Don't ban
I'll
us.
go back to I'm always in TikTok jail, guys, every couple days. TikTok jail. And I don't think we're talking about anything crazy. They just
Yeah,
words.
no, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you weren't here when we had Eric Thompson on the show,
No, no, I
but
wasn't.
the concept came up to me. The light bulb turned on to me because we got into language models,
Yeah.
and he was sharing an experience where he had in California was invited to look at something that you're like, you're not supposed to see this, but check it out.
Yeah.
With the Hollywood executives, whatever, and um, the language model deal and how they could predict events and future just by the it's kind of like the collective consciousness. They get a vibe of what everybody's writing and talking about. They can collect concepts of the collective consciousness and make predictions that are uh, depending on, I guess, how accurate these predictions are. um, but anyway, it got me thinking. I go, maybe there's a reason they're editing our language in some of these algorithms to say you can't say those words because if you say, you know, raunchy words too much, it puts it out there in the collective consciousness. And now we have more events happening of a harassment nature in the world environment. Had my wheels turning. Now I can't prove any of this, but I was like,
Yeah.
if you can change this word to unalive, alive is a more positive term than
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're putting out into the universe or energy or the language model less of that.
Yeah.
Or they're like, you guys are teaching our AI bad habits. So
Well,
we'll clean up your
maybe
language.
so, but like another aspect of it is you have to think of the effect that this self-censoring that we're forced to do online, how much does that force us to self-censor in real life with conversations with
Yeah,
people?
there's
You know what I
that
mean? Like there's
too. There's that too.
it's a symbiotic relationship there. Like when you if you do it enough while you're speaking to the internet, you're going to do it in real life eventually. So
Oh yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's a weird kind of relationship there. I don't know.
It is weird. It is weird, but I don't know what their data suggests with that. But I'm curious.
Yeah.
The light bulb clicked on my mind. I go,
Yeah.
there could be something really deep there. And they're like, we're just trying to save humanity, and if we just change this, we can change the end result. I don't know what these guys are up to,
Yeah.
or you know, our puppy AI doesn't. You're teaching it bad habits and tricks, and we don't want it talking to you like that. So, you know, coincidence.
Yeah.
But yeah, we look at it as overreach and
Yeah,
regulation and
absolutely.
whatnot. So it's kind of makes the wheels turn a little bit. I'm like, I have questions, but I don't have answers. If there's more to it than that,
Yeah.
um, or where the redirect of the illusion is. Okay, so this is probably the dumbest thing I've heard. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe this is happening. I don't know if it's going to happen like this. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. This is the plan from what I've been told. Um, but anyway, Earl Buddy of Georgia is bringing up a bill for legislation.
Super smart guy.
Super smart guy. He's taking the word green and making it red, white, and blue land for Greenland. He's not, you might as well call it Rainbow Land. That's what we're doing with this. But
I don't think this dude's allowed to name anything from now on.
yes,
He does not have the knack for it.
yes, this is again, this could be a language thing. If we put out
Yeah.
red, white, and blue into the universe,
No.
then by putting that energy out there, and everyone talks about how lame it is, we're bringing Greenland into the
Yeah.
United States because it's the colors of our flag. Like
This is how we keep it
this is how we
Greenland.
keep it Greenland.
By suggesting the stupidest possible name
Yeah.
for
Uh,
it.
call it Viking land, call it something cool, call it Shipwreck Island. Like what?
It's called McDonald's East. You're good.
like, but anyway, the plan is Greenland is coming in some shape or form, uh, and if we can't get them entirely, my understanding is all of North America will be on one currency. Is one of my predictions, and it's still on the list. All of North America under one currency. And you're like, Rick, that's crazy. Granted, I've been told this information by somebody in a secret society or whatever. They tried to get me, but I said no. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I'm a nobody. But yeah, that they plan on opening up that Arctic trade route. And so imagine, if you will, hypothetically, if they could melt that area, whether it's climate change or technology to melt that area, they can send big boats through the Arctic Circle and it'll be faster and save us like 15 days than going through the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
That is the plan. And now, with this crazy plan, right? Look at the UN map. Russia, Greenland, and Canada would become the major trade hub of the world. Everything can come in there. They'll be putting ports in there, and everything will be shipped southward from that. So, with that being said, if if they wanted to melt off of some ice or global warming, maybe they know more about climate change. I don't, cycles. I hate the whole climate change thing, but things do. I believe things do cycle, and they use these excuses for
Yeah.
other reasons. But what I was told, by 2030, they're going to be zipping through there with ships. That sucker's going to be wide open. And so Greenland and Canada are a major piece of that puzzle. And they're like, we're taking them.
Yeah.
We're taking them we're going to squeeze those guys from all different directions until they're like, okay, at least put us on the same currency. You might be able to keep your laws, your traditions,
Yeah.
like a state, you get your own little thing. Canada could probably keep whatever it's doing. They'll just probably split it up into sections
So they can continue to export maple syrup.
and logs, whatever. But they're going to do everything in their power to take it because we don't want to lose that controller power. And so we're going to be like open arms, bring you into the fold. And so as we're cutting off. Now, it wasn't just, hey, we're cutting off the money tree to them. We're cutting off the money train from every angle to all these countries right now. And they're all going to be feeling their own problems because we're like, oh, we're giving Canada 200 billion in a year. Well, if you look at all these other things they're getting a lot more than that. Does that make sense? It's not just the direct stuff like, oh, you're getting 200 billion a year for your military. We're also going to be cutting the gravy train from all these little side things. And so the money's going to dry up quick. And they're like, we got no gravy to float this ship. What do we do? What do we do? Tariff, tariff, tariff.
Yep.
Problem, problem, problem. Solution. Why don't we just all go on the same currency? If all North America jumps on the same currency, it will empower the dollar like you could not imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the big picture, folks.
Yep.
Meantime, like I say, we're peasants arguing at the bottom. the left and the right, we are children because mom and dad aren't telling us everything. They're not showing us their wallets. They're not showing us their budget. You know, we don't quite know what happened at dad at work, or what mom's doing. We we our view is biased and limited as we look up to mom and dad, like, and the rest of the world doesn't see what we see about mom and dad either. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, that is the overall plan from what I'm told. And I'm just like, wow, this is interesting. How's it going to unfold? What's going to happen? How are they going to do this? And now it's happening, or I see stages happening for
Yeah.
it. And a lot of people be, that's not right. That's wrong. Blah, blah, blah. That's fine. You can believe
Yeah.
that. But these guys have been planning this for a long
Yep.
time.
Follow the money. Like if you don't believe any of this is true, follow the money. Like I started learning a lot about this back in I don't know, like 2019, 2020 when I started really researching crypto and seeing who's washing who's back, all that. You follow the money and you'll find out that all of this is being ushered in by the same people, all the people like that's why you see the same things over the last like 4 or 5 years. You've seen the same things happen in different countries. The same thing happened with Ireland, the same way they got destabilized with a large immigrant population, the same thing that happened in the UK before that. It started over in Europe and then it tried to happen here, but luckily we're getting that repaired with ICE and all the moves they're making. So, I mean, if you see the same thing happening in different countries across the world, you can't discount that as mere coincidence. It has to be a coordinated, executed event. There's no other outcome. Like it's so all of this is definitely what's meant to happen, whether we like it or not. Luckily, there are forces fighting against it, but for the most part, it's still moving forward. It just might take a little bit more time.
Yeah. The timeline, I think, I mean, I can't predict that, but it's anyway, there are things happening. You're going to see this year 100 years worth of events. Some of you are like, I've already seen it. There's more coming. There's more coming. Um, anyway, next topic.
Yeah.
FEMA CFO has been fired
Yeah.
for funding luxury hotels for migrants in New York City.
Yes.
This is interesting because they told us they weren't paying for them.
Yeah.
Now, where their funds are coming from may not necessarily be where you think it's coming from, but it appears they are funding them. Um, so they're like, you're fired.
Yeah. No, you should. Yeah. So if you're lying about where you're sending funding, you should get more than just fired. That should come with a jail sentence. Like you're misappropriating funds. You're giving funds to illegal immigrants that could have gone to American citizens to save American lives. It's it's ridiculous. People died because you wanted to put these people that cross the border illegally in hotels.
I'd like a luxury hotel.
Yeah,
I need time
yeah,
away. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
let's jump into this. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and regular statement and account of receipts and expenditures of public money shall be published. This is rules for the Treasury. Receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published.
Yeah,
So basically, what half of what we see right now is it being published.
yeah,
It's being published now, half of it.
yeah. And these people are kicking and screaming because the law's being followed.
Yeah, the laws the law's tricky here because you have this battle between like branches, and I don't exactly know how everything like works together seamlessly, but I'll paint a scenario for you. So yeah, Elon and his boys, they go in there and they do something, and then a judge is like, "Hey, stop! Well, I believe they moved the power above the judge to Homeland Security, which, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to back Trump. And so when the judge will kick and scream, and all he can do is be like, maximum penalty is $1,000 a day. So what? Do you think Elon's worried about $1,000 a day penalty?
No.
So
Dude probably makes 1,000 an hour.
so Elon will potentially have to pay some fines, and it'll probably be our tax dollars that pay it,
Yeah.
because it's the Department of Digital Services. They'll have to, we need a budget to pay this $1,000 a day. It's like an operating expense to them.
Yeah.
So I don't think the whole Department of Homeland Security to back up the judge is going to happen. Uh, Things have become somewhat militarized, and I'm sure this is terrifying the people that aren't in agreement with this.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
it is an, I guess, redesignation of a department. Anyway, it's interesting to see this little tug of war battle go on. Like, how can a judge do that to an executive order? How can they not honor the judge's thing to say, "Hey, timeout,
Yeah.
pause"? I think I think one judge said, "Hey, timeout, pause, back off, no more." Like, I think I said some of the fees they were charging as they were funding these places were 40 to 60%.
Yeah.
One judge is like, "Hey, we'll back it down to 15%, back off." We're like, it's still fraudulent charges in
Yeah.
some cases. So,
Yeah, no,
so
that's
nobody's given an inch. Um, Again, I still look at this and go, okay, when all the dust is cleared, I hope and pray we're better off than when we started. And that is the unknown. And I think that's what scares the one side.
yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle. I like that it's being cleaned up, but I'm like, okay, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And I'm like, well, will they leave the power with the people when they're done? Um, I think that's the big question, and we don't
Yeah.
know until it's done. Because I mean, you you have some strong personalities up there right now, and so
Yeah.
people have concerns about that. And I'm like, okay, I see that. Um, and I guess when they're done, we'll find out.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
and that's scary for a lot of people.
yeah, well, I get people's fears. But again, this is a temporary reassignment of an organization. So they have a clock that they're running out, and they need to get done whatever they're going to get done within that time frame. I don't see any sort of plans for an extension of the Department of Government
The 18
Efficiency.
months,
Yeah,
yeah,
after that.
they don't need to at the moment.
Yeah. Well, so I think if they get done everything they want to get done by that time frame, they'll just be like, all right, well, cool.
I bet in 6 months they'll be like, "Hey, we've done all the research we need,"
Yep,
and then it might be another year of
yep,
court cases and everything
yeah,
else to
yeah, yeah.
do that.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great timeline for me. I'm all for it. I think we need maximum transparency right now. I think we need maximum eyes on everything, because a lot of people are buying into a lot of the lies and fear mongering that the media is spreading. And essentially saying that, oh, nobody was supposed to be given this power. This is a fraudulent, you
A
know.
lot of that's just, what's the word? Clickbait, buzzwords.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
ha, you know, a lot of department heads aren't elected.
Oh,
Is it. So that's kind of, yeah, whatever. That's just, he's not elected.
yeah. Well, and
But
that's
he is making big moves, and it has them scared. Now, if they're dirty,
yeah.
man, I'd love to see some heads roll with this.
Yes,
Who's going to
absolutely,
jail?
100%.
Who's dirty? If they don't, then you also could probably say, well, no one's going to jail for this. So this whole thing's a dog and pony show to bring in crypto and this other stuff. If no one goes to jail, if
Yeah,
people do go to jail, then I'll be like, okay.
I don't know. I think there are enough eyes on this right now that people want some people to pay for a lot of this malfeasance.
I think all we're going to see is people. getting fired. I'd love to see some heads roll, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. No, people need to go to prison for sure. That's where I'm at. I think that's where a lot of the country's at. Um, Especially for a lot of these, because at the end of the day, our taxes have gone up exponentially, and we've seen nothing for it. You know what I mean? And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are pissed about it.
Yeah, I think they found what, like a $50 billion deal with no business number or social security number tied to it. And they're
Yep.
like, "What's this for?" They're like, "No, we just write the check."
Yep.
And they're like, "Whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
it's probably some black ops
Oh yeah.
project." They're like, "We don't exist.
Yeah. Well,
How can I provide you something that
well,
doesn't exist?"
you don't give your staff orders to just write the check no matter what, unless you know some of it's going towards things we shouldn't be paying for.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, it's wild. It's wild. But it's tricky. The Federal Reserve is a private company.
Yeah.
You always hear there's nothing federal about it.
Yeah. No, there is
We are
nothing federal about
responsible
it.
for paying the interest on what they create.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. Credit 50 billion, debit 50 billion at whatever interest rate, and who's holding the bag? We
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we need to audit everything right now and completely expose everything.
Yeah.
Where everything's going, who's getting paid,
Well,
who's getting greased, and for what.
I'm waiting for him to get to the banks and the mortgage system because
Yes.
then we're getting into the bonds.
Yeah.
I've seen a bond. Each one of us has a bond, and the Federal Reserve holds it. When you're born, Social Security, birth certificate, there's a bond created, and it sits at the Federal Reserve. And I've seen one, and I was like, "What? What's this? I've heard about this stuff, but what? That's interesting."
Yeah.
And that bond is what creates your mortgage loan. That bond is what creates your, this and that. That's why it takes. If the bank had your money to start with, you can close at the title company in a week. So ask yourself the question: why does it take 60 days to buy a house? It's because your bank doesn't have the money. It's created.
Yep.
And then they charge you interest on your bond. And then your bank gets it and they charge you 2.5 interest on that. And then they give it to you. Then they go sell the thing, the loan around. Um,
Yeah.
it's a barracks mattress.
Yeah, dude.
They just pass that thing around.
It is a barracks mattress. That's actually a really good analogy.
It's a barracks mattress. They pass that thing
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
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 I tried to say that as clean as I could.
Oh
I
man.
was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, and I think the people that are most upset about this whole USAID thing are the people that have something to lose. You know what I mean? Whether it be their job, whether it be, their involvement in the corruption, they're the ones that are flailing the most. Like,
And that is a concept out there. The ones screaming the most are guilty.
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh
You know what I mean? The squeaky wheel is probably the mouse that stole the cheese. You know?
there is a belief that way. It's fun to entertain that thought. I try to be not biased. Say, okay, just ignore that. But it's how can you not be like, is there truth to that? Are these guys all squealing is it because their rights are being taken away, or is it just the audit itself, or is there so much dirt that they're just like, or we're on a sinking ship
Yeah.
and we can't stop these guys?
Yep.
Executive orders, Homeland Security backing them. Like we can't stop it. I think they probably even have the 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 mercenaries that Congress approved are backing. I think Trump is
Yeah.
one rumor I heard. And I was like, the people they got funds for are like, oh yeah. Well, thanks for the money. We'll stand guard for you,
Yeah.
keeping elected officials out of certain buildings.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
It's
mean,
like, whoa, how deep does this thing go?
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, no,
Oh man.
I can't wait to see when it's all in the open. Like it's gonna be glorious.
Hopefully it ultimately does get all out in the open, but sometimes they can cherry pick what they want to show us. There's probably some things they're like, we can't even show this to the public.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's probably some
yeah,
things in there that would cause mass
yeah.
rioting. Like
Uh, the,
people would be
the
so
600,000 in sushi
so
were
angry.
ladies of the
Like,
night.
yes.
We can't. Don't tell the public.
It'd be
This is
like
just
there's like 30 million dudes out there right now. Where's my free hooker?
yeah, pay good money. It's fine. I'm sure there's women on here that are like canceling me as a oh my
No, they're probably like, "Where's my free Chippendale dance?"
yeah. I tried to have that here at Rick's and they shut me down. So
Oh,
I tried for you
some
ladies. I
gentlemen
tried
of the night
twice.
action.
I got one through. The second one, they're like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, they're not naked. They're like,
Yeah.
no, it's still. I was like, you guys are no fun.
Sorry, ladies, no thunder from down under for you.
No, no. I'm like, oh, what do I say? No.
Oh, stop it, Rick.
Don't think that.
No Baja Bowl for you.
All you can eat. Oh man. Switching gears, what tariffs for 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming in the country?
Yeah,
So we have several plants that have closed down. Wasn't there an Alcoa here in towards Wenatchee area? I think there was a steel and
there
aluminum
was an
plant
Alcoa,
that
yeah.
closed down here, and I think there's other places in the country that couldn't compete with overseas prices, so
Yep.
they're wanting to do that. So we'll see. Remember, Trump is a populist, economic warfare. Globalists, aren't they the ones that Bill Gates and those guys are like,
Yeah.
reduce the population?
Yeah.
Pick your poison. Pick your poison, guys. Economic warfare or
Yeah. Well, and I kind of like the steel movement. It'll be good for manufacturing long term here in the US. It'll give us a leg up for sure. Um, and even Nippon Steel in Japan is cool with it. They're like, "Well, we'll help you out."
yeah.
And I mean, like, and they're one of the biggest steel make. They've gotten some of the biggest steel contracts over the last like 10 years. So
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it all works, but I mean, if you're making steel, I'm like, I don't know, you want to keep recycled products here? And this, it's like, I don't know if we crush it, send it overseas,
yeah,
like it's amazing how much we ship back and forth. Oh, you're worried about the carbon footprint. We're like, yeah, we like load up shipping containers full of aluminum cans. And like,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
coming back.
Just ship them across the Atlantic. You know, it's no big deal. That doesn't emit any sort of carbon whatsoever.
There's lots of stuff that
Yeah,
we ship. And some of it's because of labor costs, because of whatever. I get it. Um, we'll see how this pans out.
yeah, yeah.
This
No,
is it. It's not like this is a small change going on. I
yeah.
think
Well,
that's what
so I
scares
guess it's
people
for
too.
aluminum too.
Yeah, aluminum and
So
steel is what I
that
hear.
that'd be pretty good, especially like for because I remember when I was a kid, you could recycle your aluminum cans and you would get a decent amount. Like you could probably go buy some comic books and stuff. So I think kids will be able to do that again once our steel prices go up a little bit.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, other countries charge us a
Oh,
huge amount.
a buttload, dude.
So, like, when I was in Costa Rica, and I'd be like, "Hey, what'd you pay for that car?" And they were like, 120,000. I mean, this is like 30 years
Yep.
ago. And I was like, "Whoa!" And they're like, "Import tariffs."
Yep.
They had like 100% tariff on that. Um, there are things some countries charge us a 300% tariff to bring our product in to their country. I think there's some stuff from Canada that if you brought into the United States, a gentleman said, I import something and it was $4,000 for the product. To get it through customs, I had to pay $12,000 or it
Hmm.
cost me $12,000. It was like a 300% markup
Dang.
to bring it in from Canada to the US. So when we talk about fairness and all this stuff, we're like, well, anyway, tariff wars, tariff
Yeah.
wars. the solution will be, why don't we all go on the same currency? Why don't we all become the same country? You can keep
Yeah.
your little independence. Like, I don't think they care the laws you make as long as they control the money.
Yeah.
And we kind of control the money already. The Federal Reserve, every buck stops at the Federal Reserve. They, I guess, hold everybody's bonds,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. Um, and so they have some major, I guess, power there in the creation of dinero. So, being the world's reserve currency, we have certain perks, but isn't, I guess it's a private company, so it's like, is it really our perk? In some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's going to be some changes. And a lot of that's being dismantled, and it's scary
Yeah.
to revolutionize this thing. We're like, I hope when it's done, we got something that I guess we can maintain our freedoms with. The In some ways, I think we will be slightly held back because we won't have the gravy train like we did before. That they were in the idea of they were printing so much money that it
Yeah.
was just flying around, and you know cheap interest rates. We had that period of time where it was just they were just printing, and I guess for a long time, you know,
Yeah.
the way the money supply worked and all that, um, it was just flowing. And I think depending how we come up with a new system, maybe things will be a little more conservative. A lot of the luxury items we have is because of surplus time, surplus energy to create these items. If everybody had to work and there was no time to play, there would be no need for some of the fancy gadgets we have.
Yeah.
But you have enough time to spend hours swiping on your phone.
Yeah. That's true.
You have enough. So there's a need. There's people that want to work there and make things happen for you, because how many hours a day do you swipe on your phone? That is surplus of time.
Yep.
Because if you didn't have the surplus of time, you'd be looking for a second job. You'd be looking for a third job.
Yep.
If you didn't have Social Security, you wouldn't be swiping your phone 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, we have surplus of energy and time to do that.
Yeah, no, that's where I think we need to bring a lot of manufacturing back here. Because we used to have a solid manufacturing base, and the stuff we used to make lasted forever.
I
I
mean,
think,
that global system was designed that way. If they can, I mean, we're 75% service in the United
yeah,
States. So you're like, what do we actually produce? And I'm sure Trump is probably looking at that going, we have a problem. If we
yeah,
ever went to war, somebody can start cutting off our flow of things.
yep,
If we can bring steel back, we can drive a war machine, less dependency on others. It's, but it was a reason to have us all interconnected. So that way we're dependent on this place, and that place is dependent on us, and that place dependent on this guy. It's this big love triangle. We're passing goods and services around in a circle, but by removing industry from here, it has empowered
yeah.
and
Well, and
destabilized us.
that's where our moving our manufacturing elsewhere is a little dangerous, because what happens when you no longer feel the love? You know what I mean? If you're no longer feeling the love,
If China cut us off,
oh yeah,
if
tomorrow
they boycott, I mean,
we would have
we
problems.
saw a sample of that with COVID. Like, oh, the supply chain was disrupted. You know, they had some bumps in the road for several months. But if they were like, we're going to boycott you on purpose for 2 months, many places you go to buy foods that you don't think are meats and whatever you don't think are
Yeah.
processed overseas,
Yep.
your luxury shopping grocery stores, you may find empty.
Yeah, well, so and then you'll get a lot of what's happening already. Like I think a while ago they did a ban from getting Chinese imports of honey because they were using chemicals that we didn't allow here in the US. So they were just selling it to like Portugal or whatever, and Portugal would sell it to us. So you'll probably get a lot of that too, where it's just like it's not actually from here, so you don't got to worry about it. But it's like,
Yeah. Even Portugal's like, yeah, this is not so good. Let's send it to the States.
we won't sell it to our people, but we'll sell it to you guys. It's fine for you guys. You know what I mean? Like,
It's funny because like our food has like the most ingredients of like the entire world.
yeah,
I'll see it, but
yeah. Make food one ingredient again. Let's do that. Let's start there.
Even two.
Yeah,
Even
well,
two, not
yeah,
10.
yeah, 10's pushing it.
Words I could pronounce.
Yeah.
Another crazy thing is what the Second Amendment, executive order on the Second Amendment to review all federal laws.
Yes. Yeah.
The two-way guys are probably like, yes, this is great. We will see what the end result is. You always got to wonder what the end result will be, but
Yeah.
we're assuming that because here in Washington, they're trying to
Oh,
create a bond. Is
yeah.
it 25,000
Yeah, it's a
bond per
$25,000
weapon?
bond. Yeah. Either that or you need an insurance policy. And one guy I was listening to, he was like, "Well, that's even if they make it available in the state. So
Yeah.
if they don't allow insurance companies to operate in the state to provide that insurance, how do you do it? You have to leave 25 grand with the DMV. Who's got 25 grand laying around per gun? That's ridiculous. It's not enforceable. It's unconstitutional. It's ridiculous
I
thing.
believe it's unconstitutional. Yeah, all these little regulations and all these things, and I don't know if this two-way review, this executive order will wash away all that other stuff.
Well, I mean, there are states' rights, so I think it would have to be taken care of at the state level. We would have to bring it up to the Supreme Court after they pass that and be like, "Hey, look, this is unconstitutional." And then the Supreme Court would be able to look down and be like, "No, you guys can't do that. Washington State,
You think they would
this is
figure
all
this
null
out
and void."
already?
Yeah, right?
Shall not be infringed.
Yeah.
It's already been infringed quite a bit.
Yeah.
They have even a background check in the name of safety is an infringement.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now,
It's invasive.
many people agree like that's an okay infringement. Many people see it that way, but any regulation is an infringement.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm like I said before, I'm completely cool with going back to Wild Wild West when everybody carried a revolver around their
Yeah,
neck.
I
We're
mean,
good.
I get our society's changed quite a bit, and you don't have to harm your food to harvest it. We just go to the store and buy it. Like we're disconnected uh, from it, so it's like. But anyway, uh, Second Amendment's a touchy subject for some people, but the laws are being reviewed. So
Yeah, as they should.
yeah, they should be. And I think there's concern if you know the cartels are going to have you know
Yeah.
R- RPGs alphabet weapons, then
Yeah.
then what are we supposed to have to defend ourselves
Yeah.
from the cartels? Uh, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
no, they're
What another executive order on paper straws? Did you see
yeah,
that?
dude.
I do hate paper straws.
Yeah, paper straws make everything taste gross.
Does anyone like paper straws?
All right, let me see it in the chat. Anybody like paper straws?
Does anybody like paper straws? I don't know anyone that does. People say, and the paper straws come in a plastic case or this or that. I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean, that's true too.
I get it. People drink hot drinks, want a straw.
Yeah.
You burn your tongue a pinch rather than the whole thing. It's like there's
I'm a man. I'll burn my tongue everywhere. Let's go.
everywhere, baby. Um, XRP news. Someone talked about depository receipts being offered for XRP that you can buy into foreign companies using XRP, which I thought was interesting concept. We need to do more research on that. And then there was something else I heard that I was told Swift is going to purchase XRP. And yesterday, a couple days ago, there was something about Swift, one of their companies that they use called EastNet, and they're using Ripple
Hmm.
to handle messages or whatnot. And so that's one step closer to bringing in. I mean, Ripple is XRP. One
Yeah.
step closer, bringing it in to the system. And I was like, interesting. We're getting closer to what I was
Yeah.
told. I was like,
There's a lot of interesting developments
I believe
recently.
it's called EastNet. I'm going off of memory yesterday. I think it's called EastNet. And I was like, interesting. They're bringing in a Ripple technology for messaging and I guess messaging They just it's like a encrypted text message where they can
Yeah.
add numbers and you know.
Yeah, well, I mean that's Brad Garlinghouse said a long time ago that that's part of what Ripple and the XRP network allows is for um value to be sent as fast as you can send a message these days digitally, like, you know what I mean, from one place to another. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it all kind of makes sense in the sense of what it's built for. Um, because you're transmitting money at the speed of an instant message,
Yeah.
and it also is going to act as the messaging layer for a lot of these settlements of transactions across the globe. I think it's all starting to add up, and everything that I was researching a long time ago, and I thought I was crazy for like, man, is this really gonna happen? And now I'm all seeing it kind of come together, and I'm like,
We'll
oh wow,
see. We'll see. I think Elon Musk was talking about having the Treasury Department use the ledger. Anyway, there's a lot of things in the works here, folks.
yeah, yeah, no, that'd be cool.
And I don't know who the mastermind is behind the scenes that put this whole chess game together,
It's Big Balls.
but it is
Did you hear about that guy? The guy, like, he is one of the Elon's staff
oh
people
yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
DOGE.
Came outside and talked to
Yeah. And
at the
everybody's like,
education
"Who is Big
Department of
Balls?"
Education. Yeah, it was this Big Balls guy. Yeah, he's out there just being like, no, and he said like certain words there.
Yeah.
They're like, we filed a thing to get in here, and he's like, uh, he said it wasn't received. He said something like that, and some attorney person broke it down that we got your message, we got
Yep.
and it was denied. He's like, it was not received. He knew like legalese to be like, it was
Yep.
not received. We got your message, and it was not received and processed.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah, I
come in.
guess Elon changed his name to Harry Balls today on on X.
And then they talked about um I think he said they had to have an escort. And so now you're getting into like military things. Like if you went onto a
Crazy.
military base and you're a
Yeah.
civilian, you'd have to have a military escort.
Yep.
They got into like, are we under some type of military law or rule? Like, why would they need an escort? So they're little key words there. He's spitting out at them, and their job was to go there and squawk. And the words he used had, I guess, some legalese meaning. Like, yeah, it was not received. You would need an escort. Da, da, da. Like, why would they need an escort in this building? Um, either
Huh.
either when DOGE shows up, they're under the Department of Homeland Security, like under their watch, and so and it
Yeah.
becomes a military. I don't understand. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's above my pay grade, and it's probably not good to even speculate. But I was like, what does all this mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of, I feel like the natural reaction to all this. There was a lot of like not looking into these dark, deep corners of the world, and now that we're looking at it, we're like, well, what is going on?
I think one thing that's tough for the country is many things are supposed to be state rights, and because the federal government has jumped in on it,
Yeah,
uh, like out of their jurisdiction, that now we're confused, or we were used to it being a certain way, um, and there's going to be some time it's going to take to get readjusted. Some of these things I think are meant just to disrupt us and divide us,
yeah,
like even the abortion thing.
yeah,
Like it shouldn't be a thing at all. You should be able to handle your business, and those against it can live their
yeah,
life that way.
yep,
Those for it can live
yep,
their life that way. Um, and it's a tough thing because there's many people that say I'm pro-life, but I believe in the exception of this, this, and this. If you believe in any exception, the definition is pro-choice.
yeah,
Because it's black and white until we come up with and they don't want us to have a third alternative to be like pro-life with exceptions, or
yeah,
or whatever, a middle ground, because I think most people would hit the middle ground
yeah,
to say, hey,
yep,
you
yep.
know
That's where most people would fall.
100% this and 100% that. Well, maybe there should be people should be more responsible, and there are exceptions to. I think most people would fall into the middle category, but there's no such like political definition of I'm pro-choice with exceptions.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
And
how
then,
you keep people
and if you
divided.
said that, they'd be like, okay, if there was assault and this and that and incest, there, then you'd be like, okay, now I get why you would need extra care.
Yeah.
And now, and then, but anyway,
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how you manufacture division, give people only two choices.
yeah,
Just be like, hey,
yeah.
you're either this or you're either that.
I think most people would be like, yeah, there's if you're pro-life, I think a lot of them do believe in exceptions. And so a lot of this shouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah.
You know, the states can handle it. And so now it's back to the states. How long is that process for them to figure out how they're going to do it, how they're going to interact with other states? How can someone that wants that care go to a different state to get the health that they choose? Um, and so yeah, for I guess a lot of women, they're feeling a little lost or spit on right now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like I just don't judge it. I don't have to, I guess, directly deal with some of those choices. So I'm like, okay, let me take a step back. Whether I agree or not with your choice, you know, what are the states going to decide?
Yeah.
But that should have been a state right to begin with. It should have never been with the federal government, in my opinion. But at the same time, there's going to be some bumps in the road as if the dust
Yeah,
settles.
yeah, and there's always like those really weird one-off scenarios that people are going to use to be like, well, what if this happens? You know,
Yeah. So
it's
I
just
mean, I guess actually I would be in the middle. Yeah,
yeah,
it'd be like pro-life with exceptions.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
But our society doesn't do that, and I think a lot of us are in denial because it's like, yeah, there's one or the other.
yeah,
Any exception is pro-choice, but that's not something that's really taught or explained. And most people be like, man, I guess I am pro-choice. I go, yeah, if you believe in one exception, you're
yeah,
pro-choice. So somebody smart needs to create a middle ground and say, you know, I believe in exceptions, responsibility and exceptions, and then
yeah,
everybody be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll be responsible. And
yep,
if I roll the dice wrong and bad things happen, then you can be like, let
yeah,
me look at the exceptions.
yep,
I'm one of those people. And there's people that are pro-choice no matter what. There's people that are pro-life no matter what. But the majority, I think, are in the middle. They're like, life is sacred. Regardless, you should probably, arm yourself or protect yourself so you don't get caught up in that situation.
yeah,
And when you do, hopefully there's an avenue for you that is, I guess, a positive outcome for you.
yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you need to be pro responsibility. You know, like whatever you decide to choose, like
Yeah.
it's all on you. You accept the consequences, right or wrong. You know?
So, anyway, that's always I'm dancing around that topic because there's so many strong feelings about it.
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot of people that have gone there and done that,
yeah,
and I'm not here to judge you. You made that choice. It is what it is. Let's move forward. Don't, a lot of people have tough choices to make.
yeah.
You know, and okay, we kind of started a theme to end on, and it's
Yeah.
talking about I guess prepper stuff, being
Yeah.
prepared, and I was kind of raised with my you know underneath the stairs we had boxes of food storage for a rainy day. I was kind of raised that way, and being the little Boy Scout and military, and having studied some of this stuff, uh, learned a few tricks of the trade. And so today we're going to talk about fire starting, and um, I guess Josue can start us off. He mentioned one today that I was like,
Yeah, yeah. I was watching a video. So I guess you can use almost any kind of grease, but this guy was using venison tallow. So it was like just rendered venison fat. And you put like lint or something flammable in each little spot where the egg would sit. You can do it with like shredded paper, whatever.
So you're doing like an egg carton? Is that what
Yeah,
you're doing
yeah,
with?
like an
Okay.
egg carton
You said
or
egg. I was like,
yeah, inside the egg. No, no, so it's already a flammable object, and you're essentially putting animal grease into it. But once it like hardens up, you can just kind of cut the squares into like little separate little fire starters, and you can use it for grilling. You can use it to start a fire if you're out in the woods, whatever. Provided there's not a stupid burn ban, you know. Provided we have our forest clean and everything's the way that's supposed to be, and you're using a fire pit, all that.
yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, rendering animal fat. Did he show you the process of rendering the fat? Did he use
yeah,
lye or anything?
I
Or
mean, no, you just kind of like cook it down and then strain out the actual pieces of fat from the liquid.
can
Um,
I use bacon fat? I'm sure everyone's like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
I'm gonna cook some
I'm
bacon,
sure you
got
could.
some greasy
It'd
fat.
be the best smelling fire starter ever.
So you're basically making like an animal fat candle.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, for those of you that aren't into animal products, if you're a gluten-free prepper, uh, you can take your lint from the dryer
Yep.
and mix it with Vaseline. And then you can get a little piece of tin foil and you can kind of fold it up, into a little square. So, if the temperature gets hot, you don't have, but when you rip open the tin foil and you light it, it gives you a little something to handle it with.
Yeah.
The tin foil does versus, you know, putting, I guess, flammable object in your bare hand or having to use a stick.
Yeah.
You can peel it open and hold the wings of it or whatever. Open it up if you need more flame or less flame. Um, and you can have 30 seconds to a minute worth of flame. Now, when you open it up, you can kind of pull apart the lint and get it more so little threads are showing.
Yeah.
And you can use flint and steel to light it. You can
Interesting.
use other things to light it. So, or one match. Sometimes those some of those items are kind of precious when you're out and about, and but basically because of it's soaked in Vaseline, it's basically waterproof. Another thing that I picked up was it's a type of sapwood, and they put a flint on it. It was just a square of sapwood, so you can
Mm.
put it in water. Right, it's full of sap, so it's waterproof. You can shave off the sap wood, but you can also turn it over and then use your knife and strike it and and make things glow that are hypnotizing. Fall into hypnosis, look into my
Yep.
flame. Um, I mean, so a lot of these products you have in your house,
Yeah.
your household, and you could probably Google different ways of doing it. Um, the friction methods, those are good to learn, but it takes a little more skill, a little more planning, a little
Yeah.
more carving, a little more ingenuity to do it. And so while you're practicing those things and you're like, epic fail, let me get my little homemade candle out,
Yep.
that disposable deal. So whether it's animal fat or Vaseline or sapwood or whatever, you know, it buys you time while you learn these other skills. Everything's a stepping stone,
Yep.
you know. Uh, you have endless supply of lint. Hope you do. Hope you do laundry.
Yes.
You should
Please.
have an
Please
endless
have an
supply
endless supply of
of
lints.
lint, please. If you don't, you're not welcome to my house. What is that smell? That's Joey. Joey doesn't have lint.
Joey can't start fires.
Yeah, Joey can't. Um, there's different types of matches. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do, but uh, I think the flint and steel is good to have.
Yep.
Um, there are, I would pay a few cents more and get the ones with the longer shaft and thicker shaft.
Yep. Yeah, Rick would.
um, that gives you more strike time.
Yeah.
Um, and the method is you're gonna You're going to hold your knife by the fire and you're going to pull the flint. If you strike with your knife, right? If you strike with your knife down, you run the risk of like slamming your little tiny fire starter tinder thing around.
Yeah.
But if you hold it and you're pulling up away from it with your flint, the sparks will go. It's low, and the
Yeah.
sparks will go. But if you're starting with the knife, if you're trying that method, you're going to cause more of
Yeah.
a mess. But you can get the knife really low and just whoosh.
So yeah, lawnmower method.
Lawnmower method,
Yep.
and your pull is the flint, not the knife. You can do it the other way, but like you'll knock stuff down and you start off higher, and your sparks have more time to cool off as they come into your kindling stuff. So
Little tinderbox.
yeah, yeah, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, it gives you a lot more control to pull away wildly than move your hand and knock your stuff around.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know if you could see what I was doing. Yeah. Knife
Yeah.
still, flint.
Yeah. Just like that.
Yeah. It's good. Oh,
Oh
fuck.
no.
Yeah.
Rick did it. He started a fire on the desk.
It. I would say if you've never lit a fire with flint and steel, you probably should try that.
Yeah, practice a bit.
It is. There's a couple tricks to the trade with it. Like I was saying, you hold the knife still and you pull the flint. Um, it your first time doing it might be weird. You're like, you want to strike with the knife, whatever. You need a good. You should be able to use the back of your knife, not the blade of it. But you're
Yeah.
looking for a nice right angle on the back of the blade. Aid. You may need to turn it where that V part kind of digs into your flint to cause it to spark. So there's a little bit of technique there. There are people their first time doing it get frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
I was like, do the technique, get it right. And those little embers, get pretty hot.
Yeah, no, I looked like a caveman trying to use a computer my first time.
The little Walmart magnesium fire starter things, I've never had luck with.
No.
They don't quite burn right. They're a nice idea, but I wouldn't use that.
Yeah.
I for some reason your little sparks aren't quite hot enough to start the magnesium. Um, so for me, that was like a waste of time. Um, there's probably someone like, it works like a chip. For me, it hasn't. We make the little things as a scout. We'd be lighting it, and we could barely get a match under there to get the sucker to go. So I don't recommend those little bricks of magnesium and flint. I think that's a waste of time. Um, what else? What else? Matches are kind of a pain in the rear end.
Yeah.
Some get wet and they won't until they dry off nice. Sometimes they turn to powder. Um, um, you do have cases. You do have these like hurricane matches. You
Yeah.
got all these things. I think some people will dip them in wax or whatever, and so now you got a little candleage to it.
Yeah.
So it burns a little slower. Um,
That's actually pretty smart.
a candle's not a bad way to go either, because sometimes you light a match and you're trying to start your paper or your kindling and it's not quite enough. You're going match after match. If you can get a candle, you have something that, only the wind is going to stop it.
Yeah.
The match, you'll be fighting burnt fingers and this and that, or, but you're trying to conserve your resources, I guess, is the whole point. But yes, the wind will blow a candle out too. But so yeah, I mean, to build a nice little windbreak for what you're doing is probably smart. Um, if you do go camping, try restarting the fire the next morning with the coals from the day before.
Yeah. It's actually a good point.
Um, that's a good practice to get into. Kind of scoop around, and you might find some embers and start blowing on it and get the fire going. The whole point is to use all the variety of options out there. Um, and if that's something you had on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to be seen, you know, there there are techniques of, digging pits and this and that, not showing smoke during the day. Um, the Apaches kind of had a cool thing they did is so they dug a hole down and your bedding was down and basically like a cartoon sun, if you will. So you have your hole and you have your fire, so you're 3, 4, 5 feet below ground, and then they would off of that they would dig out pockets like a trench for you to sleep in, and so the heat could kind of warm up in that little spot, and so you're a bit below ground, and that hides quite a bit of your flame. Um, Another thing the Apaches would do is they would face away from the campfire, so you don't lose your night vision.
Interesting.
The white man, we all face the fire, we all want to talk and like kumbaya, but they would face away from it, and so the heat would be coming to your back, but it protects your night vision so that you can be on lookout.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a interesting concept to be like. It so goes against campfires to not
Yeah.
look at it, but
Yeah.
they would face away from it. Um, what else about this stuff can I go into? But yeah, down in the earth, and they'd have these little little caves, whatever. A little fire could kind of keep some of the little spot warmish and
Yeah.
keep you below where you're not seen and keep the light of the fire down. And if you structure it right, you don't need a big bonfire.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing about fires is if you have a poncho, preferably something that's not plastic, um, a little fire will keep you warm all night. And basically, the poncho or blanket is the teepee. So if you could sit down, if you will, and you'll run the poncho around you and you'll leave a little gap on your neck so the smoke could come out kind of behind your neck. You're going to smell nasty,
Yeah.
but you're sitting on this. And so a little tiny fire, even a candle, you'll be if you're sitting, right? If you have to sit on the ground, it's going to be right between your legs and thighs. You can get down in your underwear if you had to, but you're going to get down and the poncho and the heat's just going to run up that chimney out the back of your neck. And so you just have to sit there all night, just feed that little fire all night long. And it'll be plenty warm. Trust me, you'll be plenty warm. But that is, if you have like a military poncho, they're a little sturdier, little plastic one.
Yeah.
If you got too hot or could melt, but you want something a little sturdier. But you're basically you are the teepee. You can be sitting, you can sit on the ground. You're gonna want that fire, you know. But if you're sitting, you're about 2 feet from the ground
Yeah.
to your knees, and that flame that you just kind of sit there and you'll stay warm all night. So if you're a minimalist person,
Yeah.
your bug out bag should have a poncho, and it could keep you dry and keep you warm with a little tiny fire. I mean, the size of uh, a can of beans, like
Yeah.
a little tiny sucker. If you have a the sapwood or whatever, you can light that like a candle.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had a couple little candles, and then you just keep feeding it, some sticks, just a little bit. You will stay warm all night long
Yeah.
in sub temperatures. Um, so you are the tent,
Yeah.
and that smoke's just coming up through it. You don't need it very big.
It's Rick's new shirt. You are the teepee.
You are the teepee. Swiper, stop wiping. You are the teepee. But that teepee thing is gold.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand how I probably saved a life today with that.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't understand that is gold. Um, and it could be a blanket, it could be whatever, poncho, trash bags, whatever you got. If you could make yourself into the teepee, a little bit of flame, heat rises, have it smoke out the back of your neck if you can. Keep a little pocket there, and if it's raining or whatever, it may just have to get your hair wet because
Yeah.
you don't want to be breathing smoke all night. But
Yeah.
you will stay warm and you will not freeze to death. So if you're a minimalist, you're out for a day hike, whatever, you're cruising around and something happens and you get lost, you can survive the night if you can light a little baby fire. Just keep feeding it little sticks all night.
Yeah.
Now you probably will be tired, but you'll live.
Yeah.
You know,
Living is good.
is important. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you keep the flame, if you're able to sit and the flame could come up between your thighs, I mean, you got some major blood arteries right there to warm up.
Yeah.
Um, all your chest and everything's going to warm up. I mean, it's just a little thing. Hands are inside, just lighten the fire, take a peek, and keep her lit, little twigs at a time. If you try to light it like a regular campfire, you're just going to you will be dinner.
Yeah.
You might as well just put yourself on a rotisserie. Well,
That seems like a lot of work.
yeah. You're just sitting there smoking yourself and go, man.
Have to smoke myself and turn a handle.
When I find you in the morning, I'll be like, oh, dinner's ready, breakfast is served.
Smells like sausage.
Man, you smell good. That's crazy, crazy. But yeah, that is one of the best things that I was ever taught. And you're getting into some type of SEER training there and so forth, but like that skill is life saving.
Yeah.
And like I said, you're on a day hike, who wants to run around with a sleeping bag? These are for like worst case scenarios. Fire starter, poncho, you can survive in the snow if you can find dry stuff to burn.
Yeah.
Maybe you could be drying stuff off as you go, and
that's actually a good point.
try to keep it going. But
Just keep a bunch of dry stuff next to the can.
yeah,
The heat
got
from
all
that'll dry it out.
the Virgin Mary candle keep you warm all night.
Absolutely.
That's a little big to take with you, but like you always be able to find something. Some rotted wood if you're out in the mountains, and some of that stuff burns pretty easy. It should stay somewhat dryish, different conditions, but lots of stuff to think about,
Yeah, for sure.
Any other little tidbits I might have, nuggets of wisdom. Yeah, the Apache Indians is a good study. Because I mean, as clever as these tribes were warring with each other.
Yeah.
And it's sad that our tribes today don't get together.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't. They got all this sovereign land and all this stuff. I'm like, why don't they come together and just create their own currency?
Yeah.
Like they could.
Yeah,
absolutely. They could be like, skip the dollar. We have our own currency. They have the rights to do all this stuff, but the tribes don't get along, it seems like. It's like, it's my tribe. We don't mess with you. So they're almost like still warring with each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad thing when I'm like, they really should have come together, but they just, I don't know what the deal is. It's, and I have my biased view, right? I don't live on a reservation. I wasn't, treated in that way. So I don't quite relate, but I do see an opportunity there.
Yeah. To pull
the businessman in me is like, if I was you,
pull some ancient knowledge.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
If I was you, I'd create a currency. You could even peg it to the dollar. How about that?
Absolutely.
Suddenly you're a millionaire.
Yeah. Who needs a casino?
1 million Apache dollars is 1 million US dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, anyway, it's just, it'd just be cool to see them come together. But yeah, there's so much going on there. The Apache Indians were like so confident that we couldn't see them. They're like, we'll wear a red bandana on our head and you still won't see us, Since I'm on this tangent, if you don't mind. So one of the disciplines they did for the Apache kids is to determine, if you were going to be a scout or you're going to be this or that. One of the drills they did, you're 8 years old.
Yeah.
You're 9, 10 years old. They would have you take a swig of water and you had to hold it in your mouth. You couldn't swallow it. And then you had to go run 5 miles. And when you came back, if you had the discipline to not swallow the water and you spit it back out, you were considered like someone with discipline.
Hmm.
Could have been a 3 mile run, could have been whatever. I just said 5 miles because like
Yeah.
go run to the mountain and come back. And you had to come back with the water still in your mouth and you'd
Mm.
spit it out and they'd be like, okay, you have discipline. That you're able to suffer your way through it, mouthful of water, not to swallow it. Like a lot of conscious,
Yeah.
couldn't be a mouth breather. Um, and that was a test they did. Could you imagine doing that to our kids today?
Oh man.
You go run a lap around one lap around the track and see if you can do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I just couldn't breathe. Next,
My nose was stuffy. It
you
wasn't
don't.
stuffy 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you don't have mental toughness. Yeah, I guess if you had a cold that day, it would really be bad. But these kids were taught at a young age they needed to have discipline. They needed to know how to suffer because these guys were at war. You had all the local tribes were hide and seek champions too.
Yeah.
Another thing they did when they were training, they would tie. They walk differently than we do. We go heel toe. They're kind of a toe heel walk. And when we teach tracking, we talk about that. But they would tie leather from ankle to ankle. And that when tracking, you're measuring footprints and you're looking at gait and pitch.
Yeah.
You're looking at different foot things. And so your gait is like the stride, how far your stride is. And so they would take a leather string and they would tie it to each other. And so they'd have to learn everybody walked with the same gait, the same stride.
Mm.
So at night, they have to cross a road by the enemy. And as each one crossed the road, they'd all have the same gait. And so they'd walk in each other's footprints in the night.
Interesting.
So in the morning, you only saw one person crossing the road when really 30 people had crossed.
That's pretty sweet.
I mean, this is the discipline that they had to, they all kind of walked and so they would be single file walking and they'd all have the same stride. And so when one guy stepped over a branch, they would all step over the same. They all could mimic the same deal. And it's during the daytime you could kind of do it.
Yeah.
But at night you had to be disciplined. And the guy with the long legs, he had to train to walk shorter. The guy with short legs had to train. So they all had the same gait. And same stride and gait and everything as they cross roads and stuff. So when the Cowboys showed up, they'd be like, there's only two people that crossed here, whatever.
Yeah.
You would never know their numbers.
Huh.
So they always miscalculated their numbers. It was kind of crazy little tricks,
Pretty
right?
smart.
Before the days of drones.
Yeah.
These are things that they would do. Even with the day of drones, if they're flying over every hour, the drones map the terrain. They don't have to look. They don't have to track your footprints like they did before. But we would get a flyover and it'd look at the map, the terrain, whatever, and it would notice that these sections here moved and stopped and then moved and stopped, and there's people going or something happening.
Yeah.
Now, if you could walk at each other's footprints as they map, the drones are flying high and every hour they circle or every, couple times a day they circle and they take a picture and they can be like, oh, there's foot movement going this direction in the desert, from city to city or tribe to tribe or tent to tent or, whatever they're doing. They can track the footprints, the disturbances. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah,
So if everybody walks in the same track, the drone will fly by and it'll look like one person is going that direction instead of a whole herd of people going in that direction. So you could kind of be like, oh, it's just some trader, just some, guy getting water from this or that. You can disguise what you're doing. So a friend of mine, Doug, mercenary guy, so he taught a lot of tracking, and there was these guys poaching deer, and the for like 5 years or something, and the little ranger people hired him. They said, we cannot catch these guys, or this guy. We cannot catch this
Yeah.
guy. We know he's poaching off season. They were going in and out, and every time we go to find him, we can't find him. So they hire Doug, and Doug goes out there and go, hey, this is the last animal that they took. Here's the crime scene. Like Bambi's not there anymore. Like this is going on. So he's looking at it and he's looking around and he says, you don't have one person, you have two. They go, what do you mean? There's only one set of tracks. He goes, again, they're walking each other's tracks. He's like, I need a weapon. Like, you just don't walk in each other's tracks without being educated in this field. So he gets they're like, fine, you can have a rifle in this whatever national forest, like whatever you're at, like you're not supposed to, like, fine, you can have one. He's like, fine. So he's out tracking these guys. And he finally runs into these two guys and they pull their rifles up on him. They go, let me see your feet. They were tracking him as he was tracking them. And he's like, hey, I've been hired to track you. You guys are poaching animals. I'm here to bring you in. So they're all doing this standoff. He shows them his shoes and they're like, yep, you're the guy who's been following us. Like they're tracking each other.
That's funny.
Basically what happened was they had poached an animal or made some mistake. And they told a friend their stupid story. And he kind of like bribed him that if you don't bring me meat every year, I'm going to turn you in for killing such and such animal or whatever you weren't supposed to do. And for like 5 to 7 years, they were kind of caught in this cycle where they had to either get snitched on or go poach. And so they were like, hey, we're finally happy to be caught and this is over. And they had to pay like a $2,500 fine. And then they couldn't hunt for like 5 years or something. They got blackballed or whatever it was, 2 years. I don't know, whatever it was. But interesting.
Yeah.
They were army, prior army rangers in like Vietnam or something like that.
Crazy.
So like, you just don't know,
Yeah.
Who you're sometimes following. But the Rangers couldn't tell that there were two people.
That's funny.
But the tracker could. And Doug was pretty cool dude. He's like, if you ever get lost, there are tips and tricks you can do. Like if you're ever going off by yourself or you're out with the family and kids, take a picture of their feet and their shoe size or whatever. I know it's kind of weird. You're like, why would I do that? And you can put it, an envelope in your car, whatever. And you can let people know, hey, if I'm lost, I have, the shoes we're wearing and whatever. And so when the search and rescue show up, these guys are average trackers. They're not well trained. It's like a couple hour class, and they're like, okay, be free. And, they're out there, they're looking. But a tracker, he's going to want that shoe size next to a ruler, and they have their little sticks and they're going to mark it. They're going to mark your shoe size. And the more you give them, the more, and they'll be like, okay, that shoe print matches this. Yeah. And so when they find it, then they call in the tracker, as all these guys are searching, they'll call him in and he could take lead on it. And he's like, I can track you at night. Yeah. He's like, I'm that good. Like, but it's a weird little, I guess, skill to have because we don't think of it. And like I said, I've had some training with it. So it's kind of a weird, skill set. It's not taught anymore. Yeah. And, I noticed things about the way I do stuff. I don't know if it was a car. I got hit on my bike when I was a kid, but the pitch of my feet, one of them kicks out when I walk. I have one angles out, and the other one's fairly straight. I notice when I run, it kind of straightens up, but when I'm walking, one foot sticks out, and I don't know if that's the way I drive, guess, and whatever. Trying to remember which one it is, but I noticed that there is a distinct way I walk. We all do.
Yeah.
So I happen to have one foot that's, well, goofy, I guess. One foot's goofy, the other one's fairly straight.
Yeah.
And those things have meaning for a tracker because
Yeah.
once he has my baseline, he'll be like the guy with the goofy foot, and um
Old goofy footed Rick.
we could wrap up another story. So Doug was training some guys on tracking on the Canadian border.
Yeah.
And it was a couple SEALs and some other guys, that were want to be trained. And so on the Canadian border, and one of the local police guys there taking the training, uh, they got alert that there was during a transport, a couple prisoners escaped on a vehicle or whatever. The movies, right?
Yeah.
And so Doug is like,
Prison break.
you guys want to train or do the real thing? And they're like, well, let's do the real thing.
Yeah.
And so they broke off. So they're 4 hours behind. And so they do a method called leapfrogging thing. And he said, he says and we broke off in teams as they're trying to do it. And he's like, I'm with this, SEAL guy. And he's like, I see where they went through. It looked like an elephant went through the grass, like,
Yeah.
and he's like, so they're 4 hours ahead of us. And he's like, I know they're tired because their stride is getting shorter and shorter. They're not taking big steps anymore.
Yeah.
They're tired. And so he's like, I know they're tired. We're coming up on them. And he's like, we come around a rock, and the two guys are like, they've been, they're out of shape. They haven't done cardio in a couple years,
Yeah.
They've been incarcerated. And then he's like, oh, we come around with, these beautiful black weapons pointed at him. Or do you give? And they're like, we give. But I think in like 60 minutes after they got the alert, they were able to find him where, nobody knew exactly where they'd gone in the coming hours. But it's just, tracking. It's kind of, some of it's common sense.
Yeah.
And some of it is just tricks of the trade you have not been exposed to.
Yeah, stuff like the normal person wouldn't think about.
No. There's traits in your feet that you don't consider. Like, how do you determine if a person's walking backwards or forwards? You see their feet and the direction, but how do you know they're walking backwards or forwards? Like, it's so you get into what they call counter tracking and things to do. And of course, I use this when I had some people hunting me and I had to lose them in the little army hide and seek event. But like, it's there are things you just don't know. Animals don't do that to you. If you're hunting deer, this and that, elk, they're creatures of habit. They're going to do their thing. They just don't start walking backwards.
Yeah, they're not thinking like, well, somebody's hunting me. I better walk backwards to throw this guy off.
They got moves. They're like, oh, we got him.
Do the Cupid shuffle, like get this guy all confused.
Yeah, I'll be here all day. But yeah, there's things you do that you don't think about. But as being who we are, intelligent, yeah, we can misdirect, we can mislead, we can mimic something. And if you have the skill set, you can be like, oh, the dude's walking backwards. He led me to a spot, backed up and left. How do you find them when they're walking on gravel?
Yeah.
Certain clues, certain disturbances, I mean, there's always the, broken branch and this and that. How do you know as a person, they get to a road and cross it. How do you regain the track? Are you with a team? Are you by yourself? Like what's going on? But anyway, there's lots of little things that you don't think about. And once you learn it, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you just didn't know how the foot release works. You just don't notice some of these things. And we would train on kind of some hard sand. You'd broom it, you'd walk across, and then you'd exit the trail And then the guy's coming behind you and go, okay, he exited. How did he exit?
Yeah.
Which way did he go? Um, is he walking forward or backwards? So you're practicing different things. Um, he switches to high heels. How do you know? You know who you're hunting and
What kind of dress is he wearing now?
well, well, what do your toes do?
Yeah,
What do your
yeah,
toes
that's
do?
true.
If I had to put on a smaller pair of shoes, what are my toes doing? What are
Yeah.
and be like, hey, do you have a limp? Were you injured? Do you have, certain things you'll start to see a little pattern going on. Big stride, little stride, you know, foot drag,
Yeah.
you'll start seeing micro traces of things that, you didn't even know about yourself. I always wonder when my heels wore out, like I- you drag, you scrape. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a long way off of fire starting, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Interesting stuff though.
yeah, tracking is kind of a cool primitive, I guess, skill set. And it's it's good if you're trying to get from point A to point B without being seen. It's like a must-have skill,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things instilled with me. You got your young bucks; they're trigger happy. They all want to be like, here we go. And I was like, I want to get from point A to point B and back, and no one ever knew I was there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a herd of elephants. Um, and how do take notes and remember, because you're looking at things. The Apaches would have to go in and the guy would just, sit up there and just observe the cowboys, the army, whatever. They'd have to observe them, notice their habits, whatever, take notes, how their camp is structured, where certain people are at. And they could run back, snitch on you, right? So when they came in, they know where the key positions were, who they
Yeah.
had to take out, who they did it, what they looked like. Uh, they had to create a blueprint of the little camp or city or whatever,
Yeah.
and do it quietly, unnoticed, and sit still. Maybe you got in a position you can't leave, and you're like, I got to sit here. And does a bear crap in the woods? You're like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever know I was here. I'm gonna take it with me.
Yeah.
Like you leave no trail behind. Like it's we don't think that way too much. We get in our car, we drive around, we don't think about not existing.
Yeah.
It's a different way of being or thinking. So anyway, that's a
Yes,
long way
sir.
off of fire starting, but somehow the Apache Indian thing got me. Um, and a lot of this stuff is becoming harder and harder to learn. The people
Yeah.
that did this, I mean, I don't know where Doug is these days. He's getting old. Kevin Reeve, he's dead. He passed
Yeah.
away 2-3 years ago. It's like so the skill set is disappearing. Like I'm like, well, who teaches this stuff anymore? It's less and less and harder to find people to teach you to be a ghost.
Yeah.
And there are ways. A drone could probably pick it up, but a human, there are ways to disappear, and a human eye couldn't catch it. Where you're just like, I walked across the road and you can't tell, you know,
Yeah.
and you're not dragging a tree behind you, to like, because that leaves a trail,
Yeah.
like, you're like, cover my tracks, like,
Yeah.
uh, but they're little things that, some of the stuff they don't want to be taught to the public,
Yeah.
how not to be found. They want
Yeah.
us all connected to our cell phone.
That way we can always be found.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. But yeah, I would, yeah, I taught a few classes here at Moses Lake, but like it was, I don't know, maybe it's kind of such a unique thing that I don't know if people are super interested in it, um, but we did some room clearing. I framed a house and the owner was like, yeah, you guys come down. And so we came down on a Saturday. And so we got to do it like twice. Got to do it was just framing.
Yeah.
So you can go through and everyone could look in and see what the other people were doing, like a glass house, but it felt a little more real
Yeah.
as a glass house. And then after it was, you know, sheetrocked, went through again, and now when you went through, the other people couldn't observe you as well, but like you got to not see what's around the corner. And this one particular house had like this death trap. It was a walk-in shower,
Hmm.
but it was like a question mark to get into.
Oh.
So you're like curving and curving, and you're like, ah, you're like you couldn't pie it very well.
Yeah.
And by the time you're like peekaboo, you're like
Yeah.
ambush, like so it was very difficult to clear. And again, if you're in that situation, I mean, you're in a bad place.
Yeah.
The world's not a good place if you're having to clear houses.
Yeah.
And there's different methods and stuff. So, all right. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for enjoying the Red, White, and Blue Land.
Yeah. And if you're still here, like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next time on the Ricksican Show.